Hello, and welcome to my slidecast. My name is Raylene Ball, a graduate student from Memorial University, enrolled in the Masters of Education in Information Technology. This slidecast is done in partial fulfillment for the requirements of Education 6610. This presentation is an analytical review of learners' perceptions of and perspectives on e-learning and/or online learning. Online learning is based on multimedia and web-based learning. Typically, instructors and students are separated in online learning situations. E-learning also includes multimedia and web-based learning components, but there is not necessarily the separation of instructors and students found in online learning. Knowing students' perceptions of and perspectives on these modes of content delivery is important. This information may help instructors decide which technologies to use in these modes of course delivery. Methods. 9 journals and 1 book, all peer-reviewed, form the basis of this analysis. The sources used were published between the years 2002 and 2011. Articles were selected using keywords in the titles such as learners, students, perceptions, perspectives, e-learning, and online learning. Meta-analyses and book reviews were excluded from this analysis. Data were collected from various locations. 6 of the studies were conducted in the United States, and 1 was conducted in Australia. 3 studies did not specify where they were conducted. All studies collected quantitative data using survey design. 3 studies also collected qualitative data through open-ended interviews. As for data collection, 6 studies used strictly convenience sampling. Students already enrolled in a particular course or a particular university participated. 3 studies indicated different sampling methods from the majority of studies. 1 study utilized random sampling with cluster and snowball sampling components. Another conducted random sampling of students. Finally, 1 study invited the entire student body and staff of a specific post-secondary institution to participate. Only 1 study did not indicate the sampling methods utilized. With regards to participants, the numbers of participants ranged from a high of 4,789 to a low of 27. The majority of participants were graduate and undergraduate post-secondary students. Only 1 study had participants in the K-12 system, and these were high school students. Findings. An analysis led to the identification of 2 main themes regarding perspectives and perceptions learners had about online and/or e-learning. Students' perceptions and/or perspectives regarding elements of quality online and/or e-learning emerged as the first theme. 5 of the studies included this theme. This theme will be discussed first. The analysis determined that there were links between technology use and perceptions of and perspectives on quality in online and/or e-learning. First, high quality in online learning was related to frequent use of technology, such as email and asynchronous discussion. Quality was also found to relate to asynchronous communication modes, particularly with regards to feedback from peers and instructors. The more asynchronous discussion was utilized, the higher the perception of quality in online learning. Quality online learning and/or e-learning was also related to other elements. Access to resources and access to feedback were 2 sub-themes that emerged as indicative of quality. Access to resources refers to access to course content such as lab notes, course notes, and study guides. Access to feedback refers to being able to have discussions with peers and instructors. Feedback on materials such as assignments was also a sign of online course quality. Lastly, 2 other elements were identified as being related to quality online and/or e-learning. 1 study found that quality online learning was linked to flexibility and convenience. Flexibility of time and place meant that students could participate in their course anytime, anywhere. The second theme that emerged was with regards to learners' comparisons of various modes of course delivery, those modes being online and/or e-learning in comparison to traditional and/or blended learning. This theme was also found in 5 studies. The comparisons learners made will be synthesized into a dissemination of the advantages and disadvantages of each mode, as determined in the literature. The analysis revealed comparisons between the advantages of online and/or e-learning and the advantages of traditional and/or blended course delivery. First, each mode had benefits regarding communication. One study found that face-to-face interaction, found in traditional course delivery, facilitated sharing between peers. This mode also allowed for increased clarity in content and expectations, as learners could immediately discuss issues and concerns. In comparison, learners indicated in one study that they shared more through online interaction rather than face-to-face interaction. The study did not indicate why this was so. In online learning, learners also felt that communication between peers and instructors was facilitated, particularly through asynchronous discussions such as those through email and postings. As well, online discussions allow learners to collaborate and communicate about coursework without having to meet face-to-face. Other advantages of each mode were found in the literature. In traditional and/or blended learning, there were advantages in terms of academic benefits. Learners felt that they could engage with the content better in traditional or blended courses. Learners indicated that they did better academically in courses with in-class components. Learners also indicated that they perceived traditional and/or blended courses as easier than online courses. In online and/or e-learning, advantages were related to convenience. These aspects of convenience were 1. The ability to work at one's pace, 2. The ability to multitask, and 3. Flexibility of time and of place. Multitasking meant that students could complete coursework but also have employment. Modes were also compared in terms of disadvantages. 5 disadvantages of online and/or e-learning were identified in the literature. 2 closely related disadvantages deal with issues of effectiveness and quality. In a study of 19 online courses, learners perceived that not all online courses were equal. Learners stated that online courses varied with regards to quality and consistency. In the same study, learners indicated that online courses were not equal in their effectiveness. Other disadvantages of online learning had to do with social elements. Learners, in one study, felt that online learning hindered communication. A lack of personal interaction and a lack of a sense of community in online learning situations were identified as disadvantages. Learners indicated that traits of a good instructor that inspire learning, like charisma, cannot be conveyed in an online environment as could be in traditional delivery modes. A lack of face-to-face interaction between stakeholders contributed to these perceptions. Finally, another negative aspect of online learning was with regards to the proficiency of the instructor with technology. Learners indicated that if the instructor had limited technological knowledge, that their own learning was impeded. In comparison, only 2 disadvantages emerged regarding traditional and/or blended delivery of content. In contradiction to an earlier finding, learners in one study indicated that the workload in traditional courses was perceived as being heavier. Learners felt that courses with in-class components were more time-consuming. As well, learners also indicated that traditional in-class delivery was much less flexible than online delivery. Learners were tied to a set time and a set place for class. Discussion. 2 main findings were revealed through the analysis. The first finding was that there was similarity in the criteria surveyed regarding quality online and/or e-learning. The second finding was that there was a wide variety in approaches regarding ascertaining learners' perceptions of and perspectives on online and/or e-learning. The first example of similar criteria was regarding discussions and interactions. 9 of the studies included these elements within their surveys. One 2002 study, for example, asked students to rank the importance of interactions with peers and instructors. Meanwhile, a 2009 study surveyed learners regarding the importance of discussions with peers. A second example of similar criteria was with regards to convenience and flexibility. 6 of the studies mentioned flexibility. For example, one study cited flexibility in 7 fields of quality that the author developed. One study indicated several advantages to online learning, 2 of those being flexibility and convenience. In summary, this analysis determined that there were similarities in criteria noted as indicative of quality online and/or e-learning in the surveys utilized. The second finding regarded the variety in approaches to the theme of perceptions of and perspectives on online and/or e-learning. For example, with regards to the theme of quality, one study took the approach of identifying elements indicative of quality e-learning through data gathered in qualitative interviews. Then the results of the interviews were grouped into 7 fields of quality in e-learning. A survey was developed from these results, and the author determined that scores on the survey could be used to create an individual learner profile that would indicate that particular learner's perceptions of quality regarding e-learning. This was different than a 2010 study that utilized a more empirical approach. This study had 4 independent variables, 2 of which were flexibility and discussions. Based on survey results regarding these variables, learners' perceptions of course quality were determined. Although both studies dealt with online and/or e-learning course quality, both took different approaches. Conclusions. To conclude, this analysis determined that learners' perceptions of and perspectives on online and/or e-learning influenced course choices. Students' views on modes of delivery determined whether or not learners chose to take a course online or in the traditional delivery mode. There were several limitations to this analysis. Since only 10 studies were used, the ability to generalize beyond those circumstances contained within the 10 studies was very limited. The population studied were primarily post-secondary students, so the ability to generalize to other learners, like high school students, was limited. Regarding the ability to draw conclusions, a few studies lacked detail. For example, one study did not indicate where the sample population came from, how the survey was administered, or how the data were collected. As well, the wide variety of approaches created difficulty when trying to relate studies to one another. Synthesis and drawing conclusions was challenging. Finally, 2 main implications emerged from this analysis: the need for input on course design and the need for data gathering on achievement. The need for learners and staff to have input into online course design was the first implication. Learners' perceptions and perspectives regarding online and/or e-learning would assist post-secondary institutions when they design these types of courses. Aspects that learners have identified as quality online and/or e-learning could be incorporated into the courses. Secondly, the studies determined that more data needed to be gathered regarding achievement levels in online courses versus traditional learning modes. By gathering data, a determination can be made regarding actual differences in achievement levels between modes. Data on achievement could be used to show potential learners that online courses are viable alternatives to traditional courses. Data regarding achievement might help change perceptions. This concludes an analysis of the theme of learners' perceptions and perspectives regarding online and/or e-learning. A full list of references follows. Thank you for viewing my slidecast.